I wanted to show you my garden real quick before we go up in the studio and start painting. These are peonies, and we've got some irises over here. And the garden is a bit of a mess right now. I haven't really been out in it much this year. So I got a lot of weeds, but what can you do? These are irises that came from my mom's house. There's a couple of pink ones in here and some black ones and some blue ones. And I'll try to maybe put a photo gallery together on my website or Facebook in the next couple of weeks. And then these are poppies. I got this poppy from Vermont, and it's just I really don't know the actual name of the poppy. It's just a poppy, but it's really something else, and they're starting to take off. And whenever I see a poppy, they remind me of the artist Donald Sutton, and he would make huge poppy paintings, very simple, a lot of times just two colors, and often he would use tar as his art medium or his paint. So that might be something that we check out sometime down the road. But today we're going to paint just a really simple seascape. I just want to talk about mixing color, but I wanted to show you the garden real quick. Now we'll go up to the studio and get to work. Today we'll paint a painting of Sandy Hook. This is a beach pretty close to where I live. And we're going to start in with the sky, and I've mixed up some blue. So let's go over to the palette here. This color is a combination of blue and white, and that looks okay, but it's a little sweet. So what I want to do is knock that color down a little bit, and for that I'll use Van Dyke Brown. And you can see it kind of grays the color out a little bit, and in my mind it takes that kind of candy flavor that is often in a lot of paintings away. So let's go and wash this up in the sky. You can find this drawing on my website, and there will be a link in the description for the post. I'm going to pull the paint right off of my palette knife and just wash it all over. Now I might need to get a little paint thinner on my brush to help spread that around, and that's what I'm going to do. My main concern is not to look like the photograph. I'm just using that as a jumping off point. Ultimately, I'm concerned with the painting, not so much how much the painting looks like the photo. Take another look at the photograph, and there's a little bit of almost a bank of clouds here. It's very hard to see. And I've mixed up some white with the original blue, and I'm going to paint that right above the horizon line. Now I'm going to deal with the beach, and there's no real rule of how to go about making a painting. This is just what I feel like doing. I feel like sort of breaking it up. So I'm going to use some of the blue that I already have, mix in some white and some Van Dyke Brown and maybe a little yellow, and just wash that beach all in around the rocks. I've got a little blue on my palette knife, and I'll grab a little more of the Van Dyke Brown and some white. And we can start with that. Maybe I'll grab just a little bit of yellow. I'm going to try not to hit the rocks. And I'll pull some of the color on this long point. Next I'll deal with the water, the ocean water. There's some waves breaking. I'm going to take some of the blue that I've mixed up and add a little bit of green and start to work with that and see what happens. Here's some of the original blue and some of the beach color that I had. Maybe a little bit of green, a little bit of yellow. And we'll try that out. Again, I'm pulling the paint right off my palette knife. For the wave action, I've got pure white on my brush, and I'll end up mixing it in with the water a little bit and also in with the beach. And now I'm using some of the color that I mixed up for the beach and blending it in with the water and sort of in the ocean and on the beach. For the rocks on the beach, I've mixed up kind of a slate gray with some of the blue and white and some black and a little bit of the burnt umber again, or the Van Dyke brown. And I'll just start to paint them in. And then I'll pick up a little pure black on my brush and then mix it around on the palette so it's a dark gray. And if you think of the lower parts of the rock are getting less light, so they'll be darker. And if they're facing north, and then we have this piece of land that juts way out into the ocean, and I've got some gray on my brush, and I'll try to just pull that right across. Not doing a good job of it. I'm trying to use my finger as a guide on the top of the panel. And there's a little wave action on this other shore here. And if I put a little white there, it should give some depth to the painting. And then if we look down at the photograph, you'll see there's often a discoloration around the rocks. It's if the sand is still wet around the rocks or something. So I've mixed up another color, and I'm going to apply that around the rocks. This has a little green in it, and we'll just see what happens, and maybe over here a little bit. And I want just a little more light right on this section of the rock here. I'm just blending a few of these things together here. And maybe just a little more light right in this section here. And I think I'll leave it just the way it is. It doesn't quite represent the photograph, but again, it's a subject. The photograph is a subject for the painting. Okay, well, I hope you had fun with the painting. That's really what it's all about. Just keep painting and mixing color. I think one of the main things you can do is just work with color, and even just make color field paintings. A color field painting is a field of color, and I'll tell you maybe one or two names if you want to Google them. Barnett Newman was a color field painter, and so was Mark Rothko, and a lot of you probably know who Mark Rothko is. So yeah, I don't always try to replicate the photograph. The photograph is just something to paint from. And just to get a little more artsy, I always think of that quote from Hans Hofmann where he says to Jackson Pollock that Pollock is the drip painter. If you don't know that, his nickname was Jack the Dripper. He made these drip paintings. And anyway, he said to Pollock, you're not painting from nature, and because you're not painting from nature, you're going to repeat yourself. And Pollock, I don't know if he said this, it was kind of an arrogant thing. He said, well, I am nature. So, whatever. The point being, if you paint from nature, you'll never run out of anything to paint. You don't have to paint the horizon line. You don't have to paint the rocks. You could paint this little part of nature. It could be the sun hitting a railing, and then it could be a geometric abstraction. So really, there are no rules. Just have fun with it, and don't take it all too seriously. You know, just paint. So again, these paintings are up for auction. This one went up yesterday. This is a painting of a swimming plug. This is what we use here to fish for striped bass. And this is a place where I go striped bass fishing. This is over here in Sandy Hook. And if you want to check these out, there'll be links in the description to the eBay auctions. Thanks for tuning in and all the positive feedback that I've been getting for the painting videos, because you know, that's stepping away from the woodworking thing. I definitely don't have the audience for the art videos as I do for the woodworking videos, but I like both equally. And for my work, they're very much intertwined. And anybody who really knows what I do knows that my artwork depends very heavily on the wood shop downstairs. So again, thanks for tuning in and all the great comments. Have fun painting, and I'll see you soon.